Hello, my marvelous mid 439 students. Here's Dr. A with your week 12 rundown. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are taking care of yourselves and taking care of those around you. Remember that self care activity from week 8. I know many of you can't necessarily do that exact same thing, but it is important that you are building in some element of self-care into your routine each week, because if you are not taking care of yourself, you will not be any good for your students. So make sure you're doing that in some way. This week we are transitioning away from the lesson planning, because I'm going to take a week to look over your lesson plans and give you feedback, and I want to be able to do that before you start looking at day 2 lesson plan, just because I know that template is new and I don't want you to maybe make the same mistakes, and I don't want you moving on until you've had an opportunity to get feedback. So I'm going to take some time this week and really dive into those lesson plans. I'm going to download them all onto my tablet and write all over them and send them back to you, so that way you can think about them and reflect on them and move forward. In the meantime, we're still going to make progress. We're going to hit a different topic, but it is going to relate to lesson plan 1 a little bit, and you'll see how that works out in this assignment. The topic that we're going to talk about is classroom management. Now, I know that many of you are taking a class in classroom management right now, but classroom management is not something that is done in isolation. Honestly, coming to MSU, I thought it was a little strange that they had a whole class in classroom management separate from the mid program, because I don't know how to do classroom management without also talking about instruction and teaching and learning, because all of that is integrated together. So this week we're going to look at some philosophy, some theorists of classroom management and different approaches. And then I'm going to ask you to develop your own philosophy when it comes to classroom management. This could be considered good preparation for an interview question for your first job as a teacher next year. This is something that should be evolving. So if you've thought about it before, you might have new thoughts now. Whatever you come up with now, I would expect that it's going to be a little different when you get out of student teaching, because your experiences will shape who you are and your thoughts around the topic. Now, classroom management is very dependent on context. So who you are, who your students are, what school you're in, what are the philosophies and the ideas. So that's why it's important that we understand lots of different approaches. We do some reflecting on who we are as educators, and then we start to figure out what makes sense for us. Then when you meet your students, you figure out what makes sense for you and them together, and you constantly reevaluate, negotiate, and evolve. So this week, I've got 2 things I want you to read. The first one is a chapter out of this book, Teaching in the Middle School. Really good book. I believe the section I want you to read starts at the bottom of the first page of the PDF that I've given you. So you'll open up that PDF and you can ignore the top part of the page and then get to the bottom. And it shows you, we start talking about theorists and major theorists when it comes to classroom management. So you're going to go through, you're going to read some different philosophies, ideas, interpretations, things like that. Then a little more practice oriented, more specifics. I'm going to ask you to read 3 sections out of this book. Again, one of my favorites, Management in the Active Classroom. This is going to be, the 3 sections are on challenging behaviors from students. So how do we respond and prevent, in some cases, some of those issues. So this is theory, practice. You're going to merge them together, and you're going to write a paper for me. I know you're probably groaning, gosh, a paper, but it's important that we practice our professional writing. So I'm going to be looking at your grammar and your proofreading and your syntax and your ability to craft a clear argument while building in both personal reflection and outside sources. I'm giving you a couple of resources here, 2. Your paper, you need to have at least 4 sources. I'm expecting in-text citations, a reference page, all in APA format. I have resources if you are interested on how to format things APA style, if you need help with that. Grammarly is also a really good resource. If you're not familiar with it, let me know and I can point you in the right direction. But ultimately, what I want you to do is to start to figure out what your style of classroom management is going to be. You can take this as a very general idea, considering you don't know your specific students, but some of you do have experience with students, and some of you are in practicum placements now, so you're interacting with students. So what I want you to do is to be thinking, who are you as an educator, and what's going to be your personal philosophy and approach to classroom management in your classroom? How has that been informed? Some of it will be through from the theorists in this book. Some of it will be your previous experiences. And I want you to really sit down and reflect and build on this. Ultimately, or finally, the final part of the paper I'm going to ask you to write, and this is all outlined in the document that's posted below in Blackboard. I want you to look at lesson plan 1 that you just turned in, and I want you to think about, how does classroom management play into that lesson plan? How does your style build into that? What are the specific actions you will take to manage an effective classroom when teaching that single lesson? These are big ideas. I'm looking for lots of good ideas. I'm looking for well-described ideas. I'm looking for you to be really reflective and thoughtful in this whole process. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to schedule Zoom chats with anybody or meet you at my office this week. If you have any questions, we can totally work this out. Otherwise, have a marvelous week. Take care of yourselves, take care of those around you, and make it a great day.